everybody? Welcome to the Pro Physique Code. And man, I am so excited. I've been waiting on this podcast with Brian since November, when he was pronounced the champion, overall champion of natural bodybuilding, which is, I mean, yeah, we're going to get into the history of just what exactly that means. But how are you, Brian?
I'm doing great, man. Quick question. Do you post video too or just audio?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
it's a real deal.
please clean your nose. The video goes on our Pro Physique Studio page on YouTube, so they can see how
Oh,
handsome
cool.
you are. We'll talk
Heck
about
yeah.
that too, because
I
you stayed at
was
my
gonna
house
say.
once, and our
Oh yeah.
nanny was like asking about you for like 6 months. She probably still asks about you if I see her. She is
Was
such
she,
she has since graduated medical school. She's a nurse, and
no
but yeah, when
way.
she was working for us as a au pair. How your
Was
friend
she
Brian?
is she Portuguese? Did you say?
Yeah, she's from Brazil. Yeah, she spoke Portuguese. Juliana.
Okay, that's why.
Oh, so
It's
you remember
because
her too?
that's
See,
half
Brian.
that's half that's half my blood. Well, I remember you mentioning this.
Well, I mean, we can go way back to when I first met you after you did the bodybuilding.com transformation at the LA Fit Expo. I think that was our first meeting. So we'll dig into that, but
It was, man.
um
Yeah.
let's give everybody the Brian Decosta 1,000-foot view, like kind of where you're from, a little bit of that stuff. And then I know a lot about you, so I'll dig in and ask some probing questions, but what do you want people to know?
Cool. So my favorite color is yellow. No, I'm kidding. I was born in Dallas. Family moved around a good bit. I say I grew up splitting time between, not splitting time, but like earlier years in Boston, then moved to West Virginia, which is a state, people. It's not Western Virginia. Moved there for high school, college, studied accounting and finance in school, and then went on to become an accountant for 5 years. That was my profession, living in Washington, D.C., up until about age 25. And then I started my own business, coaching online, online business, selling training programs, um, just coaching people one on one, posting a lot of content and whatnot. And then lived in LA for 5 years. And now, as of the last 2 years, almost, I've been in Denver, which is feeling like home. Living here with my amazing partner, Aaron. And we love it. It's a great vibe. And yeah, man. So that's the 1,000-foot view, I guess.
Yeah. If you had to ask me, I would have said West Virginia boy, moved to DC to work, moved to LA, moved to, like, I didn't even know the Boston and the Dallas stuff. So that's good as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
yeah. And I think the exciting thing for me since as I've known you, I think one of the things I dislike the most is wasted talent. And when I met you, I was like, oh my gosh, like the talent level with you was just through the roof, but you just don't know what that means. Like, you ever hear that, wasted talent or so much potential.
Sure.
Um, and so for me, it's just been exciting to see that potential kind of maximize. Um, and I think you and I have something in common in that we were both inspired by a very similar person. And we're like you said, Doug Miller trained in your gym early on, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. So I started lifting at 17, and it became a big passion after organized sports in high school. Um, and then I lifted through college, and then when I moved to Washington, D.C. for my job, for my big boy job, I joined the gym that Doug Miller happened to be going to just by happenstance. It was Ballston Gold's Gym. It was a dingy, like dungeon gym. It was actually a super sick gym, one of my favorite gyms I've ever belonged to. And at that point, been lifting for probably 7, 8 years. I knew the ropes of things. I was confident working my way around the gym, had just started a YouTube channel, like showing people how to balance a corporate job and staying in shape, which I was passionate about. And then, yeah, one day I saw a dude um, lunging with the 130s, walking lunges. And I'm just like, who's this a-hole? This roided freak. And I'm throwing all types of shade in my mind because like the head trainer there, his name was Dell. He was a great buddy. He's actually lives in Denver now, and I still train with him from time to time. But we were training buddies, and we kind of prided ourselves, had little egos, like, we're the biggest dudes in the gym. And then Doug was there randomly training out of nowhere, and I'm like, nope, not the biggest dude in the gym anymore. And then I come to learn about Doug, who he is. Like, yeah, we can get into that, but yeah, Doug inspired me massively. Came to learn he owned the nutrition corner across the street, was expanding his nutrition corners, and then his accolades as a natural bodybuilder, as a coach, which he has since hung up to take on bigger and better things with core
Yeah.
nutritionals. Great stuff, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just cool. Like, I mean, I think this sport is pretty big, but you it just boils down to you. A lot of people come across the same kind of person or personalities over the course of their career. So it's like it's almost like you and I were just destined to get to know each other. Because there was even prior to that, there was even some like things happening. Um, so let's talk a little bit about because I did see some of your YouTube videos before I met you because when I got into YouTube, I've always been like a student of YouTube. You know, I love to watch other content creators and go, "Oh, what's this guy doing?" You know, I remember,
Yeah.
Max Tuning. I always liked watching his videos.
Hmm.
He was so funny. Nothing like I'm not like that, but I was like, okay, what's he? Mark Lobliner, what's he? Why is his channel doing good? And I
Yeah.
think you maybe collabed with Max or you something. I don't know where you came from.
He lived in DC when
Yeah.
I lived there. And because I actually started watching his YouTube videos, that's what got me into YouTube fitness, kind of him and Christian Guzman. And then I saw my apartment building in the background of one of Max Tuning's videos, and I was like, "Oh crap, this dude lives in DC." In my He happened to live in my neighborhood. I'd been watching his videos for months, didn't even realize he lived where I lived. So then I joined his gym that he had opened at the time, which was called District Barbell.
Oh, I
I
remember
just
that.
I just showed up there. He had it with a guy named Peter, who had the clothing company Ape Athletics.
Yep, Peter Attia,
Um,
right? Is that his name? Yeah.
Peter, yeah, I forget Peter's last name, but either way, like, it was super sick clothing. Loved what Max was doing, how unique his channel was. And I'm more of a creative brain too. And I'm like, well, Max is not like he's not like a competitor. He's not your traditional like fitness person, but he's funny. He's got some quirks about him, and he's really creative, and he's got this good balance of like storytelling and content. And that's kind of what inspired me to start a YouTube channel, is seeing Christian and Max do it. And I'm like, these are kind of just normal dudes. They're not genetic freak anomalies, or like, I mean, they're talented and they've got great physiques, but like, they're not the Jay Cutlers, the Ronnie Colemans, but like, they're making a name for
Yeah.
themselves. They're building a business for themselves. They're escaping the traditional role. And
Yeah.
I found that super
Self-made.
attractive. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were working full time when you started your channel. And I think I remember about that time Max documented like quitting his job to do YouTube kind of full time, and
Dude.
that
Yeah.
was a because I had done that a few years prior, not based on YouTube, but more based on like my coaching. So I was like, oh, this is fun to witness. I felt like when I did it, I kind of felt like I was, I don't know, I don't want to say like the only person doing it, but there was not a lot of people quitting their careers that they had gone to school for and got a degree like I had done.
No,
Like
man.
even telling my dad, like, yeah, I'm quitting my job. And he was like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, well, I'm gonna coach people. And he's like, you're gonna be a personal trainer? And I'm like, no, no. Like
Dude.
it was a
Yeah.
big paradigm
Oh my
shift.
God.
Now it's common. Now people don't even, they're like, you work in an office, you weirdo. But
Dude,
that was a
things
whole
change
movement.
so things
Yeah.
are changing at breakneck speed. It's so nuts. And it's tough for me at times to sit back and just like meditate on the fact that like, because you quit what was that, 2014, maybe 2015, something like that, maybe a little
It
earlier,
was probably 2013. Yeah.
2013.
Yeah. 2013, 2014. Yeah. It
Because
was. Mhm.
I started at 2016 my YouTube channel and started sharing content and stuff, and I felt like there was a wave that started a bit before me, but I still felt like I was like super new. And like when I decided to leave my job after about a year of doing content, like it was the same dialogue, man. It's like, so you're gonna be a personal trainer, but you got degrees. Like, are you sure? Like, you're gonna do it online, so you're gonna do like Zoom classes and like be a trainer for
So
people
what was your,
remotely.
let's talk a little bit about your first kind of competition. Doesn't need to be a bodybuilding competition, but what, because you did the, what they call it?
Spokesmodel
Bodybuilding.com
search.
transformation.
Bodybuilding.com spokesmodel search. So each year they would
Spokesmodel.
look
Okay.
for the new male face and female face of the company.
And what
Um,
year was the year that you were at the Fit Expo? Was that 2017?
20, yep, it was the very, very beginning of 2017. It was like January, it was
Yeah.
like January 2nd or 3rd or
It might have
something.
only been the first or second. That was the first year I went to a fitness expo that early in the year, because before that it was always the Arnold. And I
Yeah,
thought, well, I love LA. I love Gold's Venice. Let's
yeah,
just go out there and have some fun. And I think
yeah.
I was coaching Emily Hayden at the time. And I was like, oh, I can
Mm,
make a trip out, see Emily, who was friends with Amanda. And they had this Marie
that's right.
Wold. They had this whole like,
Yeah,
Emily
Emily
was a part of that
Duncan.
group. Yeah, Emily Duncan. They're like, and I was just starting to do YouTube back then. So I was like, oh, this is, my brain was like, oh, I can go out there and do some content instead of being my same old boring home gym self. And I think
Right.
that's when we met.
That makes absolute sense because my first idea of you was like, oh, this is Emily Hayden's coach.
Yeah. And did you win the whole thing?
I got second to a guy named Nick Cheadle from
Oh, Nick,
Australia.
Australia dude. Yeah, I've been friends with Nick too. Okay.
Yeah, Nick's been a coach for a long time. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was my first hoorah. It wasn't even competing. It was like pseudo competing. It
You
was
did
like
some pretty good flexing. I remember you did some posing on stage. Like it wasn't like a bodybuilding competition, but they did put you on stage for like a round.
they put us on stage each for a minute, and dude, I had no. I basically did what I did during the 2019 competition season is just like freestyled some crap.
Don't We're gonna get into that. You frustrated me to no end, dude. We're gonna get, um
Oh man.
so you got
But that
second
was
there, but
yeah,
that was a pretty big deal. Bodybuilder.com, like
it was,
people
man.
might not remember, but they took care of people. They like did you get like a contract or something with them from that?
I did, and dude, all this stuff happened so fast, it's crazy. So like, so basically, I'm an accountant living in DC. I decide to start sharing YouTube videos. I must have made maybe 10 YouTube videos. I had maybe 1,000 subs or something like that. And then through a weird way, I started dating Amanda. We had only met online. Well, before we started dating, we were FaceTiming and met in person, but like so I go from like within a month or two, not doing fitness stuff whatsoever, just being an accountant to starting a YouTube channel, then starting to date Amanda, which at the time she was like the it girl, it seemed like
Oh
of
my gosh, dude, that girl
the
was on fire.
she had a cult like following. So all her people start finding me. She had like 300,000 YouTube subs or something like that, like tons of Instagram people. So like people are like, "Oh, who's Amanda's boyfriend?" And then I do well in the spokesmodel search because Amanda did it the prior year and she was like, "Hey, you should enter the bodybuilding.com spokesmodel search." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." I
And I think you
submitted
guys
my
had the same coach at that time, right? You were both being coached by William.
by William. Yeah. So then yeah, that all happened within like, dude, like 3, 4 months, like starting my YouTube channel, starting to date Amanda, then doing well at the bodybuilding.com spokesmodel search. It was like boom, boom. Like think I started my channel in like September or something. And then by January was when I was on stage getting second. So like things changed so fast. And then like people left and right asking, like, are you a coach? What are you gonna do? And I'm like, I'm an accountant. Like people in my office are like, dude, you're like this crazy fitness person now. Like, what's going on? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. It was 0 to 100 really fast. Um, yeah,
Yeah. That
2017.
was a wild time. I felt like everybody I knew, it was almost like I almost had a running joke with people. They'd be like, "Yeah, I do YouTube." And I'd be like, "Oh, cool. So you're going to move to Santa Monica." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And like I'd talk to them a
Really?
month later and they'd be like, "You're right. I moved to Santa Monica." It was like this crazy energy out there, man. It was like
It was, man.
everyone was moving there. I thought it was awesome because, I was a little further on in my life, I was married and kids and stuff. So for me, it wasn't an option. But if it was an option, you bet your ass I would have been in Venice Beach, going to Gold's Gym. Like for many a generation, that has always been the dream. It's just hard to, if you haven't gone and been out there, it's hard to just explain the energy that's out there.
Oh, dude, I'm always gonna reflect on my Los Angeles days. I mean, and granted, there's some downsides to the city, of course, too. But when it comes to like, yeah, Gold's Gym Venice, the fitness culture, living the bodybuilding lifestyle, like it was euphoria, man. Like showing up at that gym, seeing inspiring physiques, people on this unique path where the rest of the world thought you were so weird for what you're doing, but you
Right.
have like a niche of people who get you, who are doing what you do, and then like online business and social media is starting to flourish right at that same time. So like we're able to make a living in a way that just like really wasn't possible even like 5 to 10 years prior. So it was like we are on this cutting edge where it's like, yeah, we can live our day to day the way that we want to, go to the gym, work on the computer for 4 hours afterwards and like then chill, man. That's like
Yeah.
your that's what
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. You and I both came from like, you go to school, you get a job mindset.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
I think that helped us because you and I have made it out of that wild, wild west mentality, being successful entrepreneurs and business owners. Whereas a lot of those people, they burn out, they made bad decisions, they tried to get rich quick, they didn't treat people right. Maybe they didn't value I don't know. I've just got this mentality that like I'm going to outwork everybody because I remember what it was like to work construction, work in a restaurant, work in an office.
Yeah,
So
man.
I'm not going back to that. I don't think people that haven't gone through that, maybe they didn't value it, but it just seemed like there was a lot of people that were out there for the money grab. Um, but yeah, I still loved the whole, I mean, I missed the Fit Expo, because of the pandemic, it kind of went away. That was one of the biggest expos, that LA Fit Expo every January.
Dude, yeah, I was always wondering. I haven't been there like the last 3, 4 years, and I was curious. It's like maybe it's that the companies that I work with aren't going there, but no, I feel like it's not what it once was.
Yeah, well, I think the entire fitness expo changed after what happened with the COVID because I was at the 2020. That was in January. It was literally the day that Kobe died. So, and then when
Oh,
I got
dang.
back, I remember hearing things about things getting closed and they were going to cancel the Arnold. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, so
Yeah.
we didn't realize that that was going to be the last big kind of fitness expo. But I think it made a lot of companies reevaluate what they're doing. They're coming back now. The Olympia, the Arnold. Now there's going to
Yes.
be a big one in Dallas. I think the idea is coming back, but there was just such a great opportunity for, I as a coach, I remember I used to laugh because I would have like 30 or 40 clients working at the expos. So I would just
Yeah.
walk from booth to booth and see my clients. And
Yeah.
then, I would go hang out with Emily Hayden at the Ravish Sands bikini booth, and a girl would come over and be like, "Oh, you're her coach. Can I get your number? Can we chat?" And I met Natalie Matthews. Like, it was these crazy networking opportunities where you just
Oh, it pays off massively for sure.
I didn't even think of it that way. Now I do. But
Yeah.
it didn't occur to me that like, oh, this is because it wasn't like an instant thing. It was almost like a few months later, someone would message you and be like, "Hey, we met in LA. Would you?"
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, "Okay, so maybe next year I should go to that again." Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
started connecting the
Yeah.
dots. And I think that's where that leap of faith matters because you deciding to go like, okay, I'm going to enter this body transformation challenge and get on a stage in LA. Like, most people would be like, that no, that's crazy, I'm not doing that. So those leaps of
Yeah.
faith lead you somewhere.
Yeah.
When did the idea, because I remember you did a men's physique competition long after that, when did the idea for you turn to like, or was it always there that I want to be like a world champion or a very competitive natural bodybuilder?
To be honest, man, there's a couple things, and this is in the same vein of like, taking a risk, following an entrepreneurial journey. I think it requires a self-awareness and you paying attention to feedback and taking an honest inventory with yourself of like, what do I feel I'm capable of? For me, I had to prove to myself financially that I could quit my job before I took the leap of faith. I think people are irresponsible now. Like they get 10K followers without any business whatsoever. And they're like, oh, I've got attention. I'm going to like start being an influencer. It's like, no, you don't do that. I methodically like budgeted things out and I was like, until I am hitting 75% of my income from my accounting job, I'm not going out on my own. And when it comes to fitness, you know, I paid attention to feedback that I would get even before starting to share content, just like lifting with buddies in college, assessing my performance compared to other people who had lifted as long as I had. And I noticed like I think I've got a unique talent here. I didn't think I was like hot shit by any means, but like I was the fit friend of my fraternity
Yeah.
friend group. I was that a-hole that could eat whatever and drink at night, but then perform well in the gym and eat a plate of food and be like, "Why do you still have abs? I hate you." Like that.
You do have an annoyingly like fantastic set of abs year round. It's quite frustrating.
And shouts to my parents for that, man, because like I don't and this is not in a bragging way whatsoever. I don't think I could get rid of them if I tried. Like
Right.
just at
No, you bulked up before we started prep this year. You were over 220, right? And you still, when you checked
I
in,
was
I'm
at
like, damn,
220, yeah.
dude. Like, if you told me you were 200, I probably would have believed you. Like, yeah. So they just stay like there. So it's very
And
conceivable for me, like thinking back to you, like just going to the gym a couple days a week, maybe hitting a couple scoops of protein and some creatine, drinking your face off, and still looking and performing well. Like that's very reasonable.
I was doing that. So and then it just compounded even more when I started because it became such a passion for me. Wanted to start my own business, sharing content. I felt so good. I was getting such great feedback, just life progress from staying in shape, conquering my demons in the gym, just loved training that once I started sharing content online, that positive reinforcement came even more. And then I met guys like you who Paul, from the jump, you've told me you've been very honest. You haven't been like just like praising me by any means, but you have a very unique way of, I think, from experience and maturity in the industry and paying attention for a long time, you're able to look at someone and be like, they've got it for sure. They might have it, or this person doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And you from the jump have been with me. You're like, dude, you've got some serious potential. I don't know if the work ethic and the desire is there, but like if you want it, I think you've got it. But I need to see the work. And that was kind of the theme that we can get into of 2019. But yeah, that's what
Yeah.
you're a pivotal reason for why, long-winded answer, but like I started to realize like, oh crap, man, like if I take this seriously, this could progress to something that's like really significant.
Yeah, I think one of the things you realize, and I've been a full-time coach now for more than a decade and going to shows and, coaching athletes. And I started off in the natural bodybuilding world, even having a world champion, back in 2014. So like I had seen what it takes. Um, and we'll get back to why I laughed when I called you handsome when we started this podcast, because when you go to LA and you meet a guy who's dating Amanda Bucci, who is the it girl in the fitness industry, who looks like you, I just had this assumption, shame on me, but I was just like, this guy's just a jack. He's going to be a jackass. Like he's going to be very, very full of himself, probably life
Probably
comes very
was.
easy to him, very entitled. And you were like the exact opposite of that. You were so not LA. You were so like old school work ethic, respect women, work hard, do the work before you talk about it. That it I was kind of thrown. I was like, damn, it all like, in no shade to anybody that's been in your life before, but I honestly it didn't make sense to me, the crowd you were hanging out with. I'm like, he doesn't fit that mold, right? I've always had this radar for, real people, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm nice to everybody, but there's sometimes people like, hey, I can help you, make 100 grand, dude. And I'm like, yeah, shortcuts,
Oh,
thanks, not interested. You're not that. And so it was kind of like it didn't make sense to me who your company was at that time. And you've since really changed. And I remember you moved out to like Sherman Oaks and got away
mhm,
from the LA scene. And then you
mhm.
started your grind. And then I was like, okay, that makes more sense to me.
And that is so funny you say that, man, because right at that pivotal time, halfway through living in LA for my 5 years, when I moved out of the city a bit and it was after Amanda and I had split up. And again, no shade to her or anyone specifically. And there's a reason our relationship didn't last. We're still friends to this day. We were going on different paths, and we both realized that. And I just felt misaligned with, um, a lot of the people that I was around. It was a lot of And, we can talk about morality and integrity and whatnot, but, like, a lot of that time period online, it was like, get rich quick, feel 6 figures, this, earn 6 figures in a year, and a lot of these characters I would meet in LA, dude, I wasn't aligned with, and I'm like, the way that I grew up, like, similar to you, like, raised in an Italian Portuguese family. My dad was raised in poverty. My mom was raised in a very traditional way. They have, their professional degrees and jobs. Like, it was very, like, very of the mind. Like, my parents worked hard to get me to where I am. I worked hard to get you to where you are, and I expect you to follow suit more or less. So, like,
Yeah.
I would have anxiety attacks almost every day starting my business because I'm like, I'm going off the path. I don't know if this is right. But that, and then to mirror that with people who are like living this almost entitled lifestyle, like it's online business, like, haha, I only work 2 hours a day and make, 1 grand a day, like stuff like that. I'm just like, you're like a bad person.
Well,
I
you
would
know
just,
what I was most impressed with when I met the whole Emily Hayden, Amanda, Emily, those girls, people don't understand how much they worked. They were working around
oh,
the
dude.
clock. Like the one thing that impressed me most about Amanda when I met her was we were at the Fitness Expo in Boise, Idaho, and she's like, I want to start a podcast before. And so I brought her this book, like Podcasting for Dummies, as a, here you go. This is a funny thing. You mentioned a podcast. Literally within a month, she had one of the biggest podcasts on the platform.
Oh, dude.
She was a hustler. So I think there's a there's a difference between what people think it takes and what it actually takes. And I knew Amanda was going to be successful. I knew you were going to be successful. So there's certain people, Emily was a hard worker. You just saw them putting in the work and the hours behind the scenes, but you just only saw the highlight reel on the internet. You just saw the Instagram post or the YouTube video. But when you spent time with certain people, you would be like, oh, wow.
Oh,
I,
dude. Hustling.
yeah, yeah, like,
Hustling.
that's the biggest compliments anyone can give me, when people tell me like, "Oh, I spent a week with you. I didn't realize how much you work." Like, yeah, it's
Oh,
so
dude,
like
you're
that's
on it. I tell you that frequently, I think, but yeah,
well,
you're
you're
on
the
another
same as
level,
me. I
dude.
mean, we've both got the mentality of like nothing's going to be given every day, every month. You've got to re-earn your value. And that's why we've lasted. That's why 10 years ago we were on the come up and we're still kind of evolving.
Yeah,
Um, and I'll never take it for granted. I'll never the second I take it for granted, I just stop. Like that's when it will be. So it's been cool because well, let's get into because I do want to get into stuff with Aaron and how I think that's kind of changed things because I want to talk about 20, I guess it was 2018 at the Arnold. We
mhm.
were maybe having a few drinks at the ale house, and you're like, "Hey man, what do you think about me doing natural bodybuilding?" And I'll never forget just saying to you, I said, if you're not trying to be a world champion, you're wasting your time and you're wasting my time. And you were like,
I remember that vividly.
let's do it. I was like,
Yeah.
you serious? Okay. Like let's go. So to me, that was an exciting moment because I was wondering what you were going to do with your physique. Cause I think at that point you were already, I don't even know how many, I can't keep up with the Instagram. You're probably at 1 million now, but back then you probably 200 or 300,000 5 years ago was more than 1 million now. Like the way out the Instagram has
Correct.
worked.
Yeah.
Um, I think back to when George Rosado, Fitness IQ, my buddy, he's my video editor now. I remember when he had like 20,000 Instagram and
Oh,
he would
yeah.
get like 1,000 comments on a video.
Oh, yeah. It was
Like,
different. It was a different
yeah,
beast.
it's just, it's evolved. So like you were already doing well at that point. So I didn't know if you were ever going to go down that path. What for you was it the Doug Miller? Was it doing your first physique competition? Had you like what was the trigger for you to think like, you know what, I kind of want to get a natural pro bodybuilding card?
Man, it was really it was how do I even say this? It's hard to articulate, but for me, I always want more, man. And I want to while I'm here, I want to see what I'm capable of. And especially with things that I have passion with. And if I with bodybuilding and fitness specifically, not only do I love it, enjoy it so much, I love sharing information. I love training in the gym. Um, don't necessarily love diet and tracking all the time, but it is what it is. Um, but like what I love to do, that passion married with something that I'm getting positive feedback that I have talent with, I'm like, dude, I want to see, I want to milk this for what it's got, and I want to take
Yeah.
this to the top level. And based on everyone that I've met in the fitness industry up until that point, it was first Will Grazione, who helped me through Men's Physique, who Will led me marvelously. I found out Men's Physique definitely wasn't for me. I'm just not built for that. It took me doing a competition to
Well, I'll say
realize that.
this, you were a few years early for the men's physique division. Now you'd fit. Back then you were way too
Maybe,
big.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had 20 pounds on every dude on stage, but either way, I came to learn, like, if I'm gonna be guided from anyone that I've met in the fitness space to take this, to gain respect from, not that it matters per se, but like there's part of me that, like, I felt like I have a paradigm of like, oh, you're just an online fitness dude. You're just like an Instagram fit boy who edits his photos, and like you probably don't even look like that in person. And like just that paradigm was still forming back then, and it was around. So there's part of me was like, you guys don't understand. I'm I'm not the oldest dude, but like I did train for 7, 8 years before ever sharing it on the internet. Whereas
Right.
like kids these days, like it's all about their lighting and someone walking in front of their clip for their bicep curls, where it's like, dude, you're literally 17. Like, give it some time. Like, I had done the work. Like, I was about lifting hard, training hard. I felt like I worked harder than 99% of people, just from like the way that I was raised, how hard I went with track and cross country and soccer in school. I knew how hard to push myself. I knew I transferred that to the gym. So I'm like, okay, this guy Paul, like, he's gonna guide me. I know he knows what he's talking about. So like when you made that comment at the ale house, I was just like, this is the time. Like, this is the alignment. Like, let's freaking go. It just like felt right. You ever have those serendipitous moments in life where it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this is what needs to happen. It just like felt like that. And I'm like, okay, screw Men's Physique, like natural bodybuilding. All I've heard about it is it's really intense. You've got to get a stupid level of shredded. It's not for everyone. It weeds out people really fast. And I love that. I love that
Yeah.
mentality. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not gonna be one of those dudes. I'm gonna
Yeah.
show up and do this.
So my first coach was Lane Norton, and he had a couple guys turn pro on a video series on bodybuilding.com back in the day. So that's kind of what got me fired up. So I was just curious like that. I just remember one day thinking like, hmm, I want a pro card. And so like for me, it was like, okay, I'm going after this. So I was just curious because I think we all just make that choice. Like, okay, what are we gonna do? Um, and it's a weird feeling when you know it's right, because you're just like you're like, yeah, you can like feel it in your soul when something's, you're like,
Yes.
oh wow, I want to do this, let's do it. um
Mhm.
and then the muscularity that you carry is bizarre. But you mentioned that you played soccer. What was the highest level you played soccer to?
I was gonna play in college. I got a Division 2 offer, um, a couple Division 2 offers, but I was my soccer team captain in high school, and then I stopped there. I decided to go drink at West Virginia University instead.
They drink in West
Drink in
Virginia?
school. Oh yeah. Drinking meth, but I skipped the meth.
Well, you have all your teeth, so we're good there.
Yeah.
um Well, the reason I ask about the soccer is because there's a couple of people that are pretty well known in the natural bodybuilding world that were high level soccer players, and that's Doug Miller and Brian Whitaker. So,
Mhm.
you know, I'm sure there's some correlation there to like good body composition, some good lower body development, prior to. Were you more lower body dominant when you first started lifting, or were you more upper body?
I think I had probably a lower body dominance. However, I didn't take leg training seriously because just naturally, like many people, I started learning like a bro. I was
Yeah, yeah,
doing upper body 4 or 5 times a week and legs once, and my leg day
yeah,
was half ass. But like in retrospect, like yeah, I got up to squatting 2 plates pretty quickly. Um, Yeah, I think I had the ability, but yeah, man, I don't know. Wrestlers, gymnasts, soccer players, I think there's
yeah,
something with building a level of work capacity, just like a volume of work.
yeah,
Like you run 6 to 8 miles in an average soccer game, and that's not just like a steady state. That's like stop, go, change direction, pivot, like
yeah.
constantly making decisions. Like just that volume of work, I think, just sets your ceiling higher
Yeah, the
than
VO2 max. So you get under
yeah,
a bar, you're not dead after 5 reps. You can do 20
no.
reps. I mean,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we'll get into training with Doug because you've trained with Doug and his volume. But I
Mhm.
think, and I've trained with Doug and Brian Whitaker and you, and there's definitely like a next level to training that you go, oh, now it makes sense why these people look like this. Like it doesn't make sense. And um, so so 2019 we did quite a few shows. We did a show in California, the
The Muscle Mayhem,
WNBF, yeah, the Muscle Mayhem, which is, for anyone that doesn't know, that's one of the longest standing shows. And I
great
knew,
show.
I knew. I mean, Matt Ogus has tried to turn pro there and didn't do it, and
Mhm.
Chris Lovato's competed there and didn't turn pro. So like, if you win the overall at that show and get your pro card, you earned it, right? So I
Yeah,
knew going into that show, Brian, like we got to be ready. The show, the thing about natural bodybuilding is they really reward conditioning. They really reward the preparation. There was no doubt in my mind you were going to be the most muscular athlete at the show. There was actually another heavyweight dude, a black dude that was jacked, but he wasn't nearly
mhm.
conditioned enough.
Wasn't
But
lean,
yeah, but so we went into that show, you know, to my recollection,
posing.
I was a little concerned about the posing.
That's what did it, man.
Yeah, a little concerned about the posing. I was a little bothered that you didn't have posing trunks with you. I think you left them in LA and we were in Sacramento. Remember? Remember, I was
It
calling
wasn't
like,
it wasn't that, it's that I bought classic trunks. They were way
oh,
too
you
big,
bought
like,
classic trunks.
the waistband was, like, an inch or an inch and a half thick. Like, I put them on and you were like, "Okay, and that's great, where's your posing trunks?" And I was like, "This is them." And you're like,
Oh, and that's the classic
"Oh,
trunks
dude."
back then were like full bottom trunks. They weren't cut out.
Oh, yeah, I was, like, fully covered. Dude, the
Yeah.
irony of us that situation where we were able to find the posing trunks is so funny. We went to the guy who owned the posing trunk company happened to live, like, 10 minutes or something from where we were.
If anybody's listening
In
to this, used to buy their trunks on bodybuilding.com from a company called Cherry Bombs.
Yeah,
The dude
we went
lived
to his house.
15 minminutes from where we were. Like, what are the chances we're at a show in Sacramento where
Dude, I know.
I was calling, I was like, who lives here? I was like, Matt Ogus. Nope, he moved. I was just thinking of anybody that lived in the area.
So crazy, dude. We went to his literal house and he busted out a fresh pair of trunks for me and
And then he
saved the day.
proceeded to tell us how bodybuilding's dying because they're on the
Yeah.
internet. Remember, he was pretty
Yeah,
salty about
he was.
Instagram.
He was. Yeah. Good times, man. Yeah, didn't
But
shave my legs. It was a
so that
process.
worked out. And then I don't know if you remember this, but the morning of the show, I think we took some really awesome pictures the night before. I brought my ring light in. You had a really
Oh,
good videographer with us. He took some good pictures. So I had a ton of confidence. I was a little nervous about the pose because you were very even uncomfortable, like getting your lats out. Like,
that
remember?
was always the biggest thing, man. I do that front lat and back lat spread. Still to this day, it's still my most uncomfortable, but I'm way more comfy with it now. But dude, it
Yeah,
felt so unnatural. I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't
yeah.
feel my back engage at all. Like, I felt like I looked like a stupid like block.
It's such a weird pose because you're actually not posing. You're actually just giving yourself like a spread feeling.
Yeah.
And I think Alberto Nunez was at the show and kind of like giving us some cues because I was like, Berto, like, what do you say to someone when they're like having trouble opening up? Um, so
Yeah.
listen, it all worked out. However, you won your class, but you didn't win the overall at the show. Um, because there was a guy in a lightweight class and his name escapes me, but he was just polished. He was probably 40, 50 pounds lighter than you, but his conditioning, his
Oh
um
yeah.
his posing, and when they got to the overall, I mean they posed you for what, 15, 20 minutes, which is pretty typical.
Hmm. God,
You
I
have an
forget his name every time too, but I someone has mentioned it to me before, but dude, and he did the right thing. That lightweight who won, I knew he was going through his poses every single day, and he was hitting like quad stomps, and like his transitions were so on point. Like, dude, I remember being on stage with him and being like, this guy deserves it, honestly. Like, I felt that way. Like,
Well,
he
you
was
were pretty gassed by the end of the judging. I remember like you were gasping for air. You weren't able to flex your quads.
shaking, dude. I was
Yeah.
shaking. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
That was a
and
wake up
and
call.
and in a weird way, I was kind of like good because now we're going to find out what Brian's like. Were you just here because it was going to be an easy win for you, or were you here to find out where you stood? Um,
Yeah.
and then we did a show, gosh, a couple weeks later, maybe a month later in Tampa, and you got your OCB Pro card.
Yeah. At
Um,
yours.
yeah, at the OCB Tampa. And then we decided to do something interesting, which I think probably set up this year, which was go to the Yorton Cup. And if you guys aren't familiar with the landscape of natural bodybuilding, the OCB is probably the second largest, or it's very similar to the WNBF. WNBF is by far and away the most prestigious. It's been around the longest, but the OCB really for a while there was on the come up. They've had a couple problems since, but they're still a great organization. So we decided to go to the Yorton Cup, which Doug Miller had won twice. Um,
Mhm.
Philip Ricardo had won it. I mean, some of the who's who of natural bodybuilding have won that show. So,
Oh
you
man.
know,
Yeah.
and I told Brian, like, listen, man, like
Yeah.
it's hard to explain what pro natural bodybuilding conditioning looks like at the world championship level until you see it with your eyes.
In person.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's I can tell you you need to be leaner, you need to be leaner, but until you've seen it, um, so and I mean the ones I have two funny memories from that weekend.
Oh
The
no.
first was the Uber.
Here
Do
it
you remember
goes.
the Uber?
No, I don't.
So this
No.
is how like you're so laid back, which is a great thing. It's a great attribute for a bodybuilder because nothing stresses you out. But at the same time, sometimes you miss some of the details. So I
That is
sent
true.
you a text and said, "Hey, dude, this is the Gold's Gym that we're at in DC for the Yorton Cup." So you go to downstairs to your hotel, you type in the Uber, type in the address, walk out, get
Oh
it.
wait. Dude, didn't I Uber like 10 feet?
It was the next
Oh,
building over.
literally not one building in between. It was right next door, dude. We
It
pulled
was a
up.
further walk to go to the car.
Oh, dude, I wasted literally 20 minutes waiting for the Uber, like, and we pulled up, and I just remember being like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I'm not from this area.
That means you didn't even look. You didn't even look at your app or like. It was
Dude, I
literally
was
yeah. So
prep
that's
brain. Prep brain.
yeah,
I'll
yeah. We
blame it
could
on
chalk it up to that too. That was just a great memory. And you, I remember. Yeah, I mean, you.
that.
I will say you looked significantly better at that show than you did at the. And you had worked on your posing, so
Yeah.
I knew we were going to be. I knew we were going to get a look, but I knew you didn't have that. Like you needed that upper body conditioning on your glutes because that's what
Yeah.
those guys at that level do. And then
Looking back at those photos, I can see the stark difference now
I
from my
think back,
Yortons.
I think
Yeah.
also it was the night before the show. I came to your room at like 8 or 9 o'clock, maybe even 10 o'clock. And you were doing these like, I'm sure you still do them, but like the music, like the DJ, what do you call
Yeah.
them? Like the,
I have
um,
turntables. I make mixes and post them on SoundCloud.
yeah,
Yeah.
I used to play them
I
in
was
my gym. I
DJ.
loved them. I'd be like, let's see
Hell
what,
yeah.
yeah, because it's like a whole, an hour long of trance or an hour long of, house
Right.
or whatever it is. So I came to your room and I just remember, I forget who I was with. It might have been like Colin or one of my friends. And we opened the door. You've got like two laptops going. You're chugging a Red Bull. And I'm like, what is happening right now?
Oh, dude, I was so that's me living in Los Angeles in a nutshell. Let's just say
Right.
that. That
Well,
was
and let's talk a little bit about nutrition because I think that's going to be an important aspect of what was different about this year. I remember specifically like you were doing a lot of like one meal a day type things or like, macro hoarding, I call it now, where people just go, oh, I'm just going to eat all my food in one meal.
yeah.
So talk a little bit about your nutrition back then. What was your kind of like daily approach?
Yeah, I think I think for the average person who's just looking to look good for the beach and whatnot. My methods back then were fine. I think you definitely got to be a bit more methodical and intentional with your nutrient timing when you're getting, sub 7-8% body fat. But yeah, I had success in the past with doing some intermittent fasting and having bigger meals. I'm a person where I really like to feel full. Um, so haven't ever really, and I do it because it's way more useful, which we can get into. I haven't really been a big fan of the 6 to 8 meals a day because, like, I just at the end of one, I'm like, did I eat? I don't know. Like, I'm kind of
Oh,
satisfied, but like,
I've never used that approach. Never.
yeah. So like,
Worthless.
so my mentality was like, yeah, I'll be hungry and just like ride off caffeine and like be focused on work and forget that I'm hungry for the majority of the day. And then yeah, I'll have 1 or 2 meals towards the end of the day and, like, save some carbs for night, and that can send me into my sleep, and
Yeah.
so long as I'm hitting my macros, getting close enough, like, I'm Gucci, I'm fine. Um, so yeah, but I think that just led to some, like, inconsistent energy with workouts, um, inconsistent, appearance in the mirror in terms of, like, water retention,
Yeah.
how distended my stomach looked, um yeah, it just wasn't, there was no consistency there, and my energy fluctuations were pretty extreme. I didn't think I
Yeah.
realized how much it was affecting my affect and my attitude and my just overall energy levels. Like, I'd be a new person after I had a meal, naturally. Um,
Yeah.
so
Well, good. So, I mean, to me, most people couldn't get away with doing what you were doing and look the way you look. Obviously, I think that that's a testament to just how much of an anomaly your physique is, because you were still able, for the 2019 Yorton, when they brought you guys out in the initial lineup in the first group, they moved you to the middle immediately. And I'm like, oh, but when they turned you to the back, they moved you back out to the outside.
mhm.
Um, and it was literally just from the front, you were winning the show. And from the back, you were just getting out conditioned by guys like Kurt Weidner. I think Magnus won that year, or was it, gosh, who won that year? Was it Magnus?
I think it was. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
He's won a couple in a
Um,
row now. It wasn't
uh,
Mishak, was it?
is Magnus a taller dude with dreads?
Yeah. Yeah. He's
It
like
wasn't
six
him.
three.
It was a shorter, darker skinned black dude with an insanely proportional physique.
That's
But
Mishak.
kind of buzzed hair. Yeah,
Mishak. Yeah. 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 So, yeah.
he
So,
looked crazy.
yeah. Well, and what I was excited for was you to see that in person. Especially Kurt. If anyone's not familiar with Kurt Weidner, might be the most insanely conditioned bodybuilder to ever get on a stage. Like, he's just looks insane. He does not have the most pleasing structure. He's had some pro wins just based on muscle density and conditioning, but just when you witness that in person, that like paper thin skin look where
Wanna know
you're
what's
like,
funny? I don't know if
yeah,
I've ever told you this, but when I was walking to the venue to the Yorton Cup I was walking behind this dude for like a half a mile. It was Kurt, and he was in full baggy sweats and everything, and I could tell just from the back, just from his head, like, he was bald, and I could tell just from looking at him from, like, the shoulders up. I stared at the back of his head for, like, half a mile walking, and I'm like, "This dude is another level of lean." Like, if this is the type of dude that's showing up at this show, god dang it. Like, it's just
yeah,
so funny you say that because I just have a vivid memory of following him into the venue, just and then, like, seeing him backstage, just, like, cross-striated, rectus femoris, like,
yeah,
I didn't even know hamstrings looked like that. Like, what the hell's going
yeah.
on?
That I think anybody that competes in natural bodybuilding, like, you have that moment. For me, it was my pro debut, and like backstage pumping up and looking over at a guy named Marshall Johnson and just being like,
Mhm.
what's happening right now? Why are you at the same show as me? Where do you come from? Because these
Yeah,
guys in
what
clothes,
planet are you from?
they look like nothing in clothes. Doesn't matter what you look like with your top on. Honestly, if you look good with your clothes on, you're not winning. You got to look like
You're
you're
not lean enough.
fucking about to die. You got to look
Yeah.
skinny, and then you take it off, and you're like, what is happening? Like, it's hard. It's so inspiring. It'll really, literally make you spend years preparing to look like that.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so, so that season ends, and I wasn't sure. bodybuilding was ever going to be another thing for you because that was 2019. And I vividly remember, we got in the gym at the Olympia with Doug, and you got to train with him. He made you vomit on a leg day. I tapped out, said no thanks.
Dude.
Um, but I feel like a lot of the pieces were in place, like getting your butt kicked at the Yorton, you know, just you were learning like this works, this doesn't work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's fast forward a little bit because it was a few years before you got back on stage, and honestly, it was a different version of you. When we started talking again this year about you competing, you were a different animal. Obviously, I know you haven't missed a workout in years, but I looked at your physique and I thought, wow, you have added so much tissue, especially to your quad sweep, that vastus lateralis area, your back density, your pec, everything had just come up like multiple levels. And then when we talked, your nutrition had changed. Obviously, you had a change in like life. So,
Mhm.
so walk me through that. Like, when did you become a bro?
Man, well, I became a bro when I realized that success leaves clues, and at a certain point, you've got to stop being hard headed and trying to do things your own specific way. Because I always kind of had this conflicting idea in my head, and I think it was the evolution in my mind of like turning into a bro or a bodybuilder, where it's like I always, even through that 2019 prep, I kind of identified as a dude who loves training, who's a trainer, who loves helping people get in good shape, but I'm a normal dude. I'm I, you know, I'm just a normal dude. I come from working like a normal job, like went to school, like, and with my clients who are general population clients, I don't do contest prep, you know, I want them to see what I'm doing and be like, okay, this is a little extreme, but like I at least can do it. And I always viewed the chicken broccoli rice diet as like, dude, no one wants to do that. That's the stereotype they talk about with bodybuilders, where it's like, you don't have to eat that way. You can eat this way instead. So like I was straddling these both of these ideologies and these identities where it's like, I want to be a normal person, but do bodybuilder things.
Yeah.
And then I realized, yeah, you can do that. And you can ride on your talent because like as you would share with me, you're like, dude, you've got potential here, but like we need to see, certain things happening. I was like, okay, I don't want to be middle of the pack. I want to be competitive in this competition because I feel I know that I can get there. Um, so I've had long time to reflect, man. I mean, that was 2019. This past season, 2013, like we had the pandemic, which pushed me off from competing when I otherwise probably would have in 2021 or 2022, just because
Gotcha.
shows were up in the air
Yeah.
whether they would happen or not. So like, I love training. I love, creating content, showing people what I'm doing, having people follow my workouts. So like whatever, man. I'm just gonna keep training and pushing hard. I'm gonna, focus on my lifts. My Romanian deadlifts went up a ton. My barbell deadlift went up a ton the last 4 years. My squats went up a ton. My hack squats went up a ton. Um, just focusing on getting stronger, man. Performance in the gym, you know, being in a caloric surplus with seasons of, eating at maintenance, maybe a little mini cut here or there. But like being at a good homeostasis body fat percentage, man, for the last 4 years, overall eating what the heck I wanted to got me to a spot where when I finally reached out to you again, you were like, okay, what have you been doing? Da da da. You're like, oh, dude, you're in a great spot, man. You're like, maintaining the strength, a reasonably lean physique, and you're eating what you want, and you're not doing cardio, oh, game on. But let's do it
Yeah.
the right way.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about Aaron's influence because, I think I was there when you guys met, or at least I was at the Arnold when I saw you guys like batting your eyes at each other. And I thought, oh, there's something going on here. So, like, because that, I think, obviously she's had a very positive impact on your life. So get into that a little bit. How did that dynamic change you? Because obviously you left LA.
I did leave LA. So Erin and I met. Anyone doesn't know Erin Colleen, she's a fellow entrepreneur online. She's a fitness trainer. She's had an amazing, inspiring fitness transformation, going from losing she's lost damn near 80 pounds. I want to say 70 pounds. She went from around 210 pounds down to 140 pounds.
Wow, I
Um,
didn't even realize that.
Yeah, leading a lifestyle that she wasn't proud of. And I met her in Los Angeles. She just so happened to be visiting her best friend, Valentina, who you know, or
Oh, yeah.
you were coaching at the time. And she just happened to be in the gym that I trained at. I saw that Val was with a girl that I really wanted to talk to, so I figured out a way to get in conversation with her at the gym, and then we started following each other. And then like 2, 3 short weeks later was the Arnold, which is where we met for the second time, uh, and actually spent some decent time with each other. So that was probably when you met her,
I
and we
think she
were
was at, I think, wasn't she at the booth like facing ours? I just remember
yeah,
because she has those like piercing blue eyes. You like see her
yep,
from a mile away.
yeah.
Yeah.
Her booth was right next to ours. Um, so we were still like in the process of getting to know each other and whatnot. And then started dating about a month or two later. And we were doing this long distance thing where I was living in Los Angeles. She was living in Salt Lake City. Um, she's from Michigan, but she moved out to Salt Lake to work with a company called Bucked Up Supplement Company.
Yeah.
Um, and she wasn't a big fan of living out there. Just, she wasn't having a great time of like building a sense of community that she really liked and people and whatnot. So we wanted to get close to each other. And we had both visited Denver a bunch of times. She had actually lived in the Colorado Springs, which is an hour south of here. So she was familiar with Denver. We planned a trip here, saw a concert, did a weekend here. We were like, that's it, we're moving. Our leases were up at a similar time. So 2 years ago, 2021, we were like, we're hitting the road. So we moved to Denver. We got separate places because personally, I've made the mistake in the past of moving across the country to live with someone. uh hint hint, but it wasn't a mistake. But either way, we got our own places and then just fell in love with the Denver area. Erin actually bought a gym that she we now both go to all the time and manage, called Transform Gym. It was actually owned by Brendan Myers, who you might
Oh
be
yeah.
familiar with. Brendan
Mhm.
Myers, calisthenics YouTuber. He was looking to get out of owning that gym since he didn't live here anymore. So Aaron bought it back in April, and we've been making constant improvements to it. Um, has grown by over 100 members.
Wow.
Looking to expand spaces now to get a bigger spot. So yeah, that long story there, but yeah, Erin builds me up and supports my dreams, and I was always asking me, how can I support you? She knows what my goals are. How can I show up for you so we can get this done? So when I won, I felt like we both won because she was there with me. Can I help you prepare food? Can I take progress photos for you? Have you done your posing? Hey Brian, have you done your posing? Like,
I owe her
she
a
just
big high five.
yeah, yeah, you do. So Erin's she's a gem. She's a lifesaver for me for
Yeah,
many
I
reasons.
mean, I just noticed the difference in you this year. Like, and I assumed a lot of that was just the positive impact that you guys have on each other, that dynamic that you have, because there is like a void in your life when you don't have a significant other that you don't you don't realize how much energy you expend trying to fill that void, whether that's positive or negative activities or even just trying to meet someone. Like that's a lot of time. So when you have that person, there's
Oh,
just
dude.
so much more time
Oh
spent on
my God.
positive things.
Oh, absolutely. And they understand you and they love you for who you are. They accept your quirks, you accept theirs. They understand what you value, what you want to accomplish. They're showing up for you. In turn, you want to show up for them. And it's this
Yeah.
cycle. Dude, it's been amazing.
So you
And
were
now we
together
have
for
a
a few
house.
years before you decided to do the show. So what
Yeah.
was the conversation like when you're like, "Hey, I just want you to know I'm going to get so shredded my ass is going to be not nasty."
That's so funny you say that. That was a specific conversation. Um, so I was I don't know if you remember, man, but we had a brief stint of jumping into prep in 2022. It was, I want to say, we didn't have more than a few text exchanges,
Yeah.
but we're on such a tight level at this point. I feel like I can hit you up at any point and be like, I'm starting prep, and like you're just like, all right,
Well,
boom, boom,
like
boom.
let's be honest, like for anyone listening here, I don't make Brian great. Brian is great with or without me, but I think we have a good dynamic where, he trusts my guidance and I know when I ask him to do something, he's going to do it. So yeah, I don't want anyone listening to this podcast thinking like, Brian's going to be
Oh,
amazing no matter what. So I'm happy to coach you. So when you reach out to me, the thing that I've gotten good at as a coach, in my opinion, is being very honest with people and telling them the truth. And I think a lot of really good athletes hear like, "Oh, you're ready. Oh, you look great." And that's not what a good coach does. You know, I still keep my finger on the pulse of natural bodybuilding. And even though I have, multiple competitors competing at the highest level of the IFBB, that is still something I'm very aware of. So yeah, I felt confident, like, okay. And I think the shocking thing for me was when you sent me your pictures, I was like, somehow this dude actually got significantly better. Like you know, your physique was like jaw dropping. The problem was you didn't even have a WNBF pro card and you wanted to win WNBF worlds.
Dude. Yeah, so yeah, we had that we had a conversation. I was like, "Here, look, here's the deal." Because she likes my butt, and I'm like, "Okay, we'll see if you like it here in 3 months."
Bye bye.
When there's literally lines on it. She's like, "What? There's gonna be lines?" And then I have to, like, pull up photos and be like, "Yes, this is the standard of natural bodybuilding. You have to have striated glutes." We had the sex drive conversation, which is essential. I think anyone in a relationship, if you're looking to be a competitor, that has to be an open dialogue. So we had that conversation, and she was like, "Okay, I've never been to a bodybuilding show before. I only have a friend who's into it. I don't know what this lifestyle is like, but I'm here for you. You want to do this? Let's freaking go." Um, and she accepted it, man. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to go out to eat as much. Like, we can go to some restaurants, but I'm gonna have to like, no, I can make accommodations there. Like, you know the whole ordeal.
Yeah,
Like, and she was, dude, she signed up for prep with me. Like, no questions asked. Like, on board with me, having a scale out in the kitchen at all times, having, Tupperware galore in the refrigerator at all times,
yeah,
asking her not to have like cookies on the counter, all that stuff, like whatever it was. She's like, just let me know. Like, I'm ignorant of this process, so I don't know like what's gonna trigger you, what's not. She would ask me like, can I buy this and like have it in the pantry? Like, I appreciate that shit so much. And
yeah,
I'll be the first to say I don't want my lifestyle decisions changing someone else's decisions for their own diet and their life, but it sure means a whole hell of a lot when you have a partner who's willing to make changes to make your life easier. And that's
yeah.
how it's been.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell, it just it's had a positive impact on your, not only your stage physique, but just your demeanor. Um, so it's exciting for me because one, I've noticed over the years, there's a few key traits. You said earlier, success leaves clues. I've had a few clients have a lot of success, right? And the one thing, you talk about someone like Daraja, she's got this really fulfilling, stable life outside of the sport, right? It doesn't define her.
Mm,
And I think that's very important because I think a lot of people, we go back to the era, when we talk about when we first got into the sport, I noticed a lot of, especially women, let the sport define them. So as when they were having success early in their careers, the sport defines them. And then when
mm,
they stop having that success, when they don't get that pro card, when they don't go to the Olympia, when they, whatever their failure point is,
right.
then they kind of lose their identity for a little while and they try to figure out who they are. So you having
Hmm.
that whole base at home,
Hmm.
win, lose, or draw on the bodybuilding stage, you're a winner. Like it's not gonna negatively impact. So that's very exciting for me that you were in that place in your life. Because when you prepped in 2019, I mean, I mean,
Oh man.
you were just, there was no hours for you. You were just, you just, you were just like the ultimate bachelor.
I was, man. I was a single dude living in LA,
I think, didn't you have a male or two male roommates? Like you guys had a big old
I had
house.
I had two roommates. We were renting a house in the Hollywood Hills. Um, the world at our fingertips, chasing women, all the things like stories I'll never tell on a podcast. Just like
Yeah.
I was being 27, 28 years old. And maybe I'm a late bloomer for some dudes. Some dudes are married and have kids by then. For me personally, I was like, I want to lift weights, make money, and chase girls.
Listen,
And
my rule of life for anybody that knows me, I will kick your ass if you get married before you're 35. Like, don't do it. You are not ready. Now, there are some exceptions, but for the
Yeah.
most part. That's like my rule. Me and my best friend had that rule. It's worked out very well for both of us. I've been married for 11 years now, going on 11 years, and it's because I had that phase. I had my 20s and early 30s where I was just, you know, full of piss and
Yeah.
vinegar and living life. And I see a lot of guys do it the opposite. They get married at 20, 21, and then in their 30s they lose their shit. They start,
Yeah. They're
you
like,
know.
this is all life is. I want to have my fun phase.
Yeah. So it's cool to see you kind of coming into your own right now. So let's navigate the actual season, because the unique thing about natural bodybuilding is there's only a few ways to get to the world championships. First of all, you got to get your pro card, which the WNBF was like, yeah, you're going to have to win a pro card with us.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think we actually considered doing the show out in California, right? Was that,
Yeah, we did, but then realized we didn't want to do too much time in between worlds and
yeah, that was real
in
early
the
in the
show.
year. And
Yeah.
so this is kind of where coaching experience comes in handy, because I actually had a client do that before. I had a client get a pro card, win a pro show, and go to Worlds all within a few weeks. And it was this show called the Monster Mash out in Boston. And I was like, I wonder if that's still there. And so that was our magic ticket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Monster Mash was what was it, 2? It was 2 weeks before Worlds. I think it was literally the last show to win a pro card in to be able to compete at Worlds. Um,
Well, and to compete at Worlds, I think I don't know if they would have allowed you, but you have to also compete in a pro show prior to Worlds, right? Or were they giving a pass for that?
so I think if you want, so at Worlds itself, and actually the girl who won open women's bodybuilding, I don't know if you're familiar with this girl, but she won Miss America, the Yorton, and the open bodybuilding at the
Wait, what's her name?
dude, I'll send you her profile afterwards. It's a brunette girl. I'm kicking myself. I
She
forget her
because there
name,
was
but
a girl that was undefeated in women's bodybuilding back when I competed. She had won the Yorton, the WM. She had never been beaten. But
this
she
girl's
would
probably
be
24, 25.
okay, it's not her then. She would be my age. She would be probably in her 40s, but she was unbelievable. Lane
Yeah.
coached her.
This
Okay.
this girl is, dude, her legs were as lean as half the dudes. Insane. But in within the WMBF, she got her pro card at Worlds, and then as a pro won Worlds overall, all in the weekend.
Oh, so we
But
could have just done that.
we c- I guess so, but I like Boston. Like I grew up part-time there. My dad's from there, so and it was a great show. Chris Elkins was out there, so it was great to connect
Well,
with
and I mean,
Chris and his
honestly,
girl.
it would have been pretty difficult. I mean, you pulled off the double win out in Boston, getting your pro card and winning the pro show the next day. But at Worlds, to to pose the way they're going to pose you and then compete again the next day, there's going
That's
to be
another
some problems.
I was gonna say that felt like too much of all my eggs in one basket. Like, because I wanted to be on the pro stage at Worlds. Like that was the goal that we set out with at the
Yeah.
beginning of prep. Dude, I'm not trying to just like show up at Worlds as an amateur, haven't competed in WMBF for 4 years and be like, hope it works out. So like I get
Yeah.
there was a little buffer there. But the Monster Mash went well. The pro show was competitive. There were
I
a
think
couple.
I think Marshall Johnson was there, right?
Marshall Johnson was there, looked freaking amazing, dude. 63 years old, insane,
Yeah, so
freaking
I
insane,
competed
dude.
against him in 2012, so that would have been 11, 12 years ago. So, and he was winning pro shows in his 50s, so
Him and there's another guy who is from Jersey who owns a gym in Jersey named Ken or Kent, I want to say.
Beerly.
Yeah,
Yep.
dude, stupid lean.
Yep.
And then there's another guy. His Instagram is called the Professor. I forget his actual name, but he got second to me at Monster Mash. Paul, I need to send you this guy's physique. Potentially holds more muscle mass than Doug. I swear to God, he's
Jesus.
a Dominican dude, and if he was just a bit, I think he's Dominican. I'm almost 100%. Either way, like insane shape. Arms are probably 21 inches. Makes no sense. If he was lean enough, I wouldn't have won that show.
Hmm.
But 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 he wasn't quite lean enough. I had him on the legs for sure. So yeah, that's how Monster Mash went, man. And I got positive feedback there. I will say I didn't have my posing routine down as sharp as I wanted to, and the head judge came up to me, and she was nice enough to be like, "Hey, you clearly won this show. However," or no, this is what she said. Of the 5 judges, 4 of them had you winning. I did not have you as winning because you have not brushed up on your posing enough, your actual routine. You hit your mandatory as well. You did everything right, but I want to see you be really sharp on your routine if you want to win worlds. Um, and she's like, I'm going to be a judge at worlds. So for the next 2 weeks, it was like, okay, game on with this posing routine. Let's figure it out.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's also valuable feedback because, like, you go to Worlds with that judge the day before, you're not going to fix it in one day. So those are things that
Right.
you can't change. But in 2 weeks, we had the
Exactly.
ability to, like, you know, the lighting was so bad at that show, and that's one of the problems I have with some of these shows is like you're taking these
Hmm.
athletes that look amazing and the pictures look so pedestrian and it just doesn't make sense. So I'm forever grateful to a guy named Wayne Carmona. If you're listening to this, thank you.
Shout
Because
out to Wayne.
that dude recorded videos from dead center at Worlds of all the classes. I mean, I don't know if he had a tripod or what, but those videos are so crisp.
Dude,
Um,
shout out
yeah,
to Wayne. I'm actually going to message him on Instagram. I need to thank him formally for that. But yeah, dead center, 4K, 60 frames a second, uploaded every class to YouTube. What a
yeah,
G. What a
yeah,
G.
amazing. So now I had a client compete at the amateur show the day before. And so that was, well, we'll get into that a little bit. But so as we get to Worlds, your weight kind of went up and stuck for a little bit. Like we were like, okay, are we going to get back down to that 193, 194? We never quite saw that, right?
Nope.
So I was curious how it was going to go. Um, Obviously, you were concerned because you have zero history at Worlds, right? You've never even been to Worlds. You're a new pro. They had like a 2 or 3 time returning champ and Prince. They had all these
Yeah.
guys from Europe. So I think at one point you expressed to me like, dude, they're talking about everybody but me. I'm like,
Yes.
I'm like, there is no you, man. Like, you didn't have a pro card 10 days ago. Like, how they um but this is one thing I'll give the natural bodybuilding credit for. Lots of things. I love natural bodybuilding, but they don't care who you are. When
Mhm.
you walk out under those lights, the best physique wins. And that's it. The best
Yeah.
physique, the best prepared athlete wins. And it's just a meritocracy. And when you're there in person, it's as clear as day. And it's hard to explain it when you watch videos, but when you're there in person, there's just an element of, and I didn't know because I wasn't there in person, but what was your experience like? Because I have some feedback for you. What was your experience like getting ready to go out on stage? Like backstage, pumping up? Was anyone talking to you? What were you thinking?
Yeah, at the Monster Mash 2 weeks prior, I think I pumped up. So I learned from my mistakes. I think I made a little bit of a mistake of pumping up too fast. I was anxious. I was ready to get after it. Other dudes started pumping up. So I started, I think, a bit premature. Um, and I think I kind of like hit my peak a little bit wrong. Going out on stage, I was trying to salvage it. So like at Worlds, um, before you go out, so they went lightweight class, then middleweight class, then heavyweight class. Um, when the middleweights go out, they then bring the heavyweights, which I'm in heavyweight, to a back holding section. So great venue out in Seattle, a performing arts center, and in the staging area in the back, they've got like the rooms with the fancy lights and mirrors for like all show performers to get ready. And there's like 3 rooms. So they stuck all of us heavyweights in a room for like, I want to say almost an hour. Um, and it was great because all not, and this is what I find in natural bodybuilding. It's not, I feel like it's not like the Olympia or the IFBB where like there's like these like childish like rivals and I'm not going to talk to him and there's shit talking and stuff. Dude, all the dudes were so chill, like great freaking dudes, like would be my buddies easily, like hang out,
I
like
think Sam, wasn't Sam there? Okanola?
Sam, dude, Sam was there. He made a joke at some point, acted like he pulled his calf in the like, dude, we were just shooting the shit, like joking around. Some people were filming some content, like just whatever. We were like, people were sharing, like, yo, I got chips if you need chips. I've got gummy bears. Like, everyone's like being supportive of each other, which is funny because like everyone was talking except Bada Prince. He was sitting in the corner, not talking to anyone with a hoodie and shit on. So I thought that was interesting. I'm not throwing shade at him by any means, but like it added to his intimidation factor. I was just like, oh, dude, this guy's
Oh,
ready
there's
for
some
war.
dudes that literally don't unrobe until they say line up, and they literally just go and just do a couple most and walk out, and you're like, what the hell? Yeah.
That's exactly what that's exactly what he did. But no, it was good. I timed my pump right. Like I was like monitoring. They luckily had a TV in the pump up room so we could be watching the middleweights on stage so we could be seeing when they're about to wrap up. So like I just had a couple different levels of resistance bands. Uh and what did I do? I did some salt and vinegar chips and I did gummy bears. Not
Yeah.
not a bunch, just like a handful of each. Probably 20 minutes ish before I went out on stage. Didn't go crazy on the pump. Um, you know, 3, 4 sets of push-ups, not to failure or anything, some curls, some rows, and just like being sure like to remember all the work that I did. And like I could only go downhill from here. You hear that a lot with preps, like people freaking out the day or two before, like trying to cut
Right.
water or add too much salt or cut salt. And it's like, dude, just like don't. So my goal was just like stick to the basics and have fun. Like, don't stress. We know about cortisol and like, don't freak out. Like, you're also around a bunch of people that you really like and like you're inspired by. Like, have a good time, smile, laugh. Like, it's going to be fun. So, like, I just made sure to like enjoy it. Like, don't get all freaking uptight and like text Paul every 5 minutes. Like, what about this? What about that? Like, just like let it be, like trust in the work that you've done because dude, some of those 2 hour cardio sessions at night that I knew I had to knock out, I dreaded them all fucking day, bro. Like
Yeah.
all day. But I did them. I didn't
Yeah.
miss. And I trusted in
Well,
that work.
let's talk a little bit about the the biggest thing that happened this year to you.
I
I
won.
mean, well, I'm talking about, well, no, your father passing, like
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, of
I know
course.
that had a pretty profound impact on you because you kind of broke down on stage after, but like where is that in your mind? Is that something you're just not thinking about until the show's over? Is that
Man, that really overcame me. So yeah, back in so I lost my grandfather, my mom's dad, a month prior to my dad. Uh, and my dad wasn't in good health. My grandfather also wasn't in good health, so it didn't fully come out of left field for us. But I mean, it's nothing you can prepare for. So
right?
it was different, man. When I started, because I had started prep before he passed. I remember texting you and letting you know. And like for a second, I was thinking there. I didn't consider it for more than like a minute, but I was like, should I not compete? But then I'm thinking like, what would he want? Um, And dude, my dad was an entrepreneur. He's cut from the same cloth as me. Like he's all about achievement, going after what you want. It's what you do in the dash when you're alive. Like he would have been freaking pissed if I didn't. So I was like, no, fuck that, man. Like I'm giving this all I have. I'm remaining committed. I want to make him proud. Like I feel like he when he was alive, he was out in West Virginia. He wasn't seeing what I'm doing day to day, but now he's seeing everything that I'm doing.
Yeah. I was just curious because I know, sometimes at the big moments or the toughest moments, that's when you like those kind of things kind of hit you. So I was just curious
Oh, it hit
if
me
they were just,
massively, man.
yeah,
It hit me massively after, especially after when I walked out of the venue and got into the car with Aaron. I actually have a video of it. I like started recording and I didn't even know I was gonna cry or anything, but like it just started flowing, dude. Like all of the work over the prior 5 months. Um, and, like I held it together, like saying bye to people at the venue, like everyone saying congratulations, taking photos, and like as soon as I got in the car, dude, and like that door shut and it was silent, like, I
Yeah.
just man, I freaking lost it.
Yeah. Well, let's go on. You get on the stage, and pretty quickly I get a text message from my little spy that was at the show. Um, and so I was actually, oddly enough, I was at a show in Fort Lauderdale at the same time you were going on stage. I had a couple competitors going on stage, and I get a text message that says, Brian looks crazy. I think he's going to win. And I was like, whoa, what? Okay. So I was texting him back, like, and he was sending me pictures, and they're like, they moved him right to the middle. They moved him to the side and then to the middle. And I was like, well, where's Prince? They're like, no, Prince is, I think, third. The guy that's in second looks better. And I'm like, where's Sam? And they're like, Sam's like 4 or 5. Like, it's, and so like I was like, oh my God, dude, can you win can you win his class? So there's levels to WNBF Worlds. You win your class, you're the world champion of heavyweights, you're the world champion of middleweights, lightweights. So that is
Yeah.
rarefied air. Brian Whitaker was like the 4 or 5 time lightweight champion, could never win the title until he did, right? So I was like, cool, maybe this is the year Brian climbs that rung. We get the heavyweights, and maybe we got to come back. And my client just kept saying, like, I don't know, man, he just looks on, like he just looks complete. um so then when you won your class, I think we had a brief conversation right after, because, or did,
I think I I think I texted you.
yeah. um and then you went back out there for, I mean, how much time did they give you after they announced you winner?
How much time? Um,
I mean, because they, like, for those that don't know natural bodybuilding, they pose the ever living crap out of people. It's 15 to 20 minutes straight.
oh, dude.
It's not, let's hit a couple quarter turns and call it a day like the NPC. It is, you're literally, I mean, you're literally walk off stage like gassed.
They did it, so we did mandatories, we walked off, we had maybe 10 minutes back there. So I think there were 9 or 10 on stage. They the organizer walked in the back hallway, called out the top 5 numbers and said, "Come back in the holding area, side stage for your posing routines." Um, so between mandatories and then starting to do posing routines, maybe 15, 20 minutes. Um, did posing routines 1 minute each, and then it was basically right away. As soon as the last guy finished his posing routine, bring the top 5 on stage, announce the top 5.
Were
Um,
you confident going into the announcements of the placings, or were you just like, I know I'm near that 1 or 2 position?
in my soul, bro, I thought that I was gonna get second. I don't know if it's a paradigm or something with like me knowing that Prince, because I will say his physique in person is so stupid, dude. It is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, you know, his core, his freaking quads have quads on them. Like, and I think just the mystique of like knowing that he had won the prior 2 years too, maybe that was like built up in my mind. But
Yeah.
like, I but that being said, like I knew I was center the whole time during prejudging, and he was to my left the whole time. Like we were like stuck in that position. They were like moving everyone else, but like we stayed there. So I'm like, but I was maintaining center. But like I thought they were gonna let him have it again. But I was in disbelief, dude. Like when they called him for second, like I looked at him and was just like, holy shit, dude. Like, and like I think he was surprised too. And then like Sam came up to me right away on stage. He was like, let's fucking go. Like, good job. I was blown away. I was I couldn't believe it, dude.
So you, at that point, you would won. Like, if
Oh,
if
dude,
you,
if I went home, I would have been still elated.
yeah, yeah. And I'll be honest, when I saw the guys, I think I was watching live for the overall for a minute there. Dude,
Yeah.
those guys from Germany, holy
Yep.
crap, were they shredded.
Yeah. Dude, they came for a battle, man. Dirk Emrich, who I'm not sure his age. I want to say if I had to guess, maybe mid-20s. Um, from Germany, shorter dude. Um, absolute beast of a lightweight class. Man, I want to say they had nearly 25 freaking dudes on there on the in the
Hmm.
lightweight. It was just insane. Um, Stupid peeled. But then the middleweight, Ben Schuster, also from Germany, who's 21 years old, which is mind blowing, um, was by far, I think, the most peeled athlete at the show, bar none. He could definitely stand, and he's 21 years old. He can stand to put on some more mass if I'm going to give him a critique, but man, that's just going to come with age.
Yeah.
Um, his structure is beautiful. He's got the leanness down. He's got a good look about him. I think he has an extremely bright future. I mean, he has a bright future now. He had been winning shows already this
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
and he was the one that I was frustrated with when I texted you. I was like, "Man, they're comparing like on Instagram, they're comparing either is Prince going to win or Ben Schuster? Prince or Ben Schuster every outlet."
Yeah.
But and I was like, "What about me?" But like then I saw Ben in person, the middleweight winner, and was like, "God damn, dude, like his hamstrings had cross striations in it, like his glutes, there's like shredded glutes and then there are shredded glutes and he had
Yeah.
top to
His look like
bottom.
Flex Lewis's glutes. Like it literally you can see every muscle fiber going across.
Oh, bro. Cra- Crazy. Crazy. So, yeah, when I stood next to both of them for like 5-10 minutes waiting for the overall backstage and just looking at them in person, I'm just like, dude, you guys are freaking savages. Like, we'll see.
So when you're out there on stage, because they put all of you in different positions throughout, they don't like clearly mark a winner. They just go, you're in the middle for a minute, you're in the middle, you're on the outside. So I think, and I like it that way because all the judges from both sides get to see everybody equally. Can you hear what they're doing?
Yeah, they're just really they're really just calling out, if we have to switch and then they're calling the mandatories. I can't hear dialogue between
Okay.
the
Sometimes I hear
judges.
like I heard them say my name a lot. You can hear like, yeah, Brian, or like so I was just curious, like depending on the venue and what they're doing, I was just curious if
I
you could
was
hear.
I was constantly paying attention, man, because like I all I was thinking was like hit the pose right, no shaking, and smile. Because like I can put on a pretty significant grimace face. So I was like, yeah, I would get really grimacy. So I was like, smile, look at the judges, hit the pose. But like, yeah, they kept things pretty hush at one point, and I forget what's the president of the WMBF's name again? He's long hair. I
Bob
forget his
Bell.
freaking name. Yeah. So Bob, like, in before he announced it, and he was like, looked at all of us and was like, well, for the heavyweights, he looked at all of us and said, I don't want this to be the last time I see all of you guys on stage together. This can't be the last time. Make that promise to yourselves. And then at the overall, he looked at Dirk Ben and I and was like, "This hasn't been a more difficult overall to call since I can remember. Like this is
Yeah,
one of the
I remember
most,
him saying like this is the
yeah,
best overall in a long time.
this is the best overall in a long time."
Yeah.
Um, and then from there, dude, I think I just black out. I don't remember who got second or third. I don't know if Dirk or
There's
Ben
no
was.
in the overall, it's just they announce the winner. So
Oh, okay,
when you're judging a
yeah,
bodybuilding show, when you're doing an overall, you just pick the winner, right?
oh,
So let's say there's 7 judges, you
yeah,
each have a number. So I write 239. The next judge writes 115. The next judge writes 239. They take
right,
all the numbers. Whoever has the most first wins. Um,
yeah,
and so we got some surprising news. So they announce you winner.
yeah,
That wasn't the surprising news. I so I was in Fort Lauderdale. I was in line getting feedback for Ariana, who just got qualified for the Olympia. I looked down at my phone and it says Brian won the whole show, and I literally dropped my phone. And someone goes, the person I was standing with goes, "What happened?" I go, "Brian just won WNBF Worlds," and they're like, "No way!" And I'm pretty sure that's what it just said. I had to pick it back up and make sure it didn't just say your class because I already knew you won your class. And yeah, I'll never forget that moment because I'm like
dude, I
that
look,
title is that's Mount Rushmore to me. That is unbelievable.
I'm look, I'm looking at our text right now. It was so after prejudging, 3 texts in a row. I go, prejudging done, centered the whole time, feel good about this. And then and then an hour later, I won. Next text, world champion. Oops. And you go, oh my God, just OMG.
Yeah. Yeah. But I had already, like, when they announced you winner, I got a text from my friend that was my client that was in the audience.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh my.
yeah. And so just a little bit about me before we finish up with you. For a long time, I've been wanting to say, like, my goal has been to be the best coach in the world. And for one mother effing day, I was the best coach in the world.
Oh,
an
you had a hell of a day, dude.
I had two girls qualify for the Olympia, and you won WFIT Worlds in the same weekend. So I was like, hey, this is for one weekend. I am him.
Oh, dude, absolutely. And no one deserves it more than you, man. I
So
gotta say.
that was that was fun. I went out and had some tequila after that. But
Hell yeah.
so I've since talked to the judge. Well, let's talk a little bit about like the emotion that came over you because um they gave you, I think what most people don't realize about WMBF Worlds, it's truly worlds. It's not the world championships of natural bodybuilding and there's like a Canadian there. It's
Yeah.
like there's like people with like Italian tracksuits, German tracksuits, Chinese tracksuits. You're like, am I at the Olympics? Like it's legit.
Japan, Korea, Australia. Oh yeah,
So they
man.
they brought
England.
you an American flag. So you're like, holy shit, I won and I'm representing USA.
I know that felt freaking badass, dude. Like, I feel like there's so many reasons that the media wants to make Americans shameful for being from America these days. I'm not trying to get political, but like it felt good to like grab an American flag and be like, fuck yeah, like let's fucking
Yeah,
go.
yeah, American muscle.
Hell yeah.
And
Man, yeah, I don't know. I don't It's so rewarding, man, just for work to pay off, like, and to feel like you've realized your potential because in my gut, like in my soul, I felt like I could do it. Like I really did feel like, and I think that's a necessary thing for an athlete to have within that. I don't think you can be successful. I don't think you can win without that, without a deep knowing within yourself. Like if I check all the boxes and bring my best, I know I'm good enough to take this. And I did have that. Like I really did feel that way. I was
yeah,
of course I'm a human. I question that at times. I see dudes backstage and I'm like, what the hell? Like, what am I doing here? Like imposter
yeah.
syndrome, all that stuff. But like I felt that and to have, and especially for my family, dude, like especially for like what made me tear up the most is like seeing my sister-in-law sent me a video of them live streaming at the house and my whole freaking family's there and my mom's there and my grandma's there and my nephews are there and them announcing the winner and everyone just going freaking crazy like
Oh, I haven't seen that. I want to see that.
dude
That's awesome.
it makes me so freaking happy just to like just to close that loop and be like look at all this work it paid off like my brother is still in disbelief he's like dude for this whole year you're the best natural bodybuilder in the world and I'm just like I mean I guess you could say that. I mean, that's the title that but
Yeah.
like just to and I've already seen that pay off with my brother of him like showing up with his work and finishing his degree harder and like being way more intentional with his life. Like my freaking brother did this, like I can do that. Like it's just awesome, man. It's
I'm
like
curious,
it's such a blessing.
has it changed your life in any way? Like I'm just because I mean you're already so well established with everything you got going on and like how has it changed anything?
Dude, I don't know about changing anything. If anything, I feel like especially and this I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but like with my audience and followers online, like my crew and people who followed me for years since 2016, like I feel like they won too, and especially for the people who are OGs who've been following me for a long time, and like I've got history of DMs with them. I've never met them, but like it goes back to freaking 2017. Like getting a text from them, getting a message from them, being like, "Dude, I always knew you had this in you. Like this is fucking crazy. Like, I feel like they won too. Like, I showed them,
Yeah.
like, see, look what how I educate you guys on training, like, and like leading a healthy lifestyle. Like, look what it has done for me. Like, when I apply these principles, like,
It is cool to think that the principles that you espouse about your nutrition, your training, which you, me, everybody that does this, we all get questioned. Oh, that's stupid. You need to be doing this diet. You shouldn't be eating that food. You shouldn't do like it is cool when you can kind of see it all come to fruition and go, yeah, I did it right. Um, and
Hmm.
it, it even helps you with that imposter syndrome go, oh, I don't feel like an imposter anymore. And it's only honestly, I've been coaching 10 years. It's only been in the last couple of years, 2 years maybe, that I'm now like supremely confident that I am a good coach. Um, and I think so like it's cool that now like all the stuff you say on Instagram, because you have a huge following, it's it's backed up.
Yeah, there's validation there too, where it's like you are who you say you are. You there's weight behind, I just feel like there's a difference with my clients now. Like I feel like my clients are showing up, checking in for their workouts more frequently. I feel like just in the last month they're getting better results. I feel like I'm showing up as a better coach. Like it I don't know, it not that we need validation, but we're social creatures, and I think to a certain degree we do. Like to be able to close that loop and be like, I did things the right way. Um, it gives me more confidence to show up better for others and to be confident in my principles in the way that
Well, and
I
you
do
made a
things.
good point about believing that you could actually do it, and that being the catalyst that got you to the point where you were on the precipice of winning and thus winning. I did my first round of pro shows and got my butt kicked and realized I can do everything that Brian does. I cannot compete at that level. And so I had to like go down a different path. I don't have like the structure, the density. I look great. I'm very happy. It's not a woe is me comment.
Right.
It's it's like, going to a basketball tryout and being like, yeah, I want to play center. And then there's a 7 foot dude that can jump out of the gym and you're like, oh, there's levels to this. And so,
You aren't blessed with the 5'9" elixir.
right. Like, but that pushed me into the thing that I did have the 5'9" elixir for, which was coaching. Right. So like, I think for you, knowing that you had that within you and seeing it come to fruition, it's just awesome. Um, let's talk finally about the feedback because, and this is probably the thing that shocked me the most, not that you won, but how you won. Because historically, I've followed Brian Whitaker's entire journey through trying to win a world championship, which he did after his fifth or sixth try. And he did one show a year, worlds. Usually
Hmm.
won his class one or two times. I think once he got second to Sean Clarita, who ended up becoming Mr. 212 Olympia. But he he worked his way up. But whenever they would do the overalls, and I'm talking about overalls with Brian Whitaker, Siobhan Cunningham, Martin
Yeah.
Daniels, I can't even name like some of the who's who of natural bodybuilding. It was never unanimous. It was like 4-3, 2-2-1, right? Like so when you told me that you spoke to Bob and he actually did message me the other day that it was 7-0 unanimous win, I was like even thrown more. Like, wow, every single judge had you winning.
When he told me that, he called me to tell me that specifically. It's just mind blowing, man, and it's so crazy. And I don't know. I didn't feel like it was that. I don't know. I didn't feel that it was that unanimous, and maybe it's just that I'm just like assessing and like looking around at everyone. But if I had to think of why, and what you said is true. I think the bodybuilders walk out, they do pick the best physique on that day, and that's such a blessing because that's what we look for in the sport. That's what we want. We're like, this is a sport where we put in the work. We want the payoff to be for the person who does the best. That being said, though, like Bob remembered me very vividly. He's like, "You did Muscle Mayhem in 2019. When's the last time you competed?" I was like, "Dude, I took 4 years off." I don't think that's swayed in his voting, but like I'm sure at some point in the subconscious of his mind that would have played where it's like he took that to heart that he didn't win his pro card at the WMBF Muscle Mayhem in 2019, and he's been busting his ass, not missing a freaking session
Yeah.
for the last 4 years. And Dude, I think we just did prep right. I think you guided me extremely well. I think us, you know, not having scattered shows, us doing a couple test peak weeks was freaking epic to
Yeah,
like
those recovery weeks where we get to bring the food up and fill you out,
to
restoring your
see.
like energy and excitement, and then we grind for a couple days. Like to me, that is the how I prep everybody now. I want them ready early where I can refill and grind because it sets you up for even after the show. There's just a difference in mindset post show.
Don't get me wrong, prep was not easy as a whole, but
Right.
by far, man, this was the easiest prep I've done. I've not had any crazy weird binging stuff, food focus, nothing. It's almost been like I feel like there should be something wrong. Dude, I like had a couple crazy meals, like whatever, but nothing like 4 cheesecakes like I did in 2019.
Or
Like Cheesecake Factory, baby. But like, no, like I got back to like my normal diet, like eating as a normal person. I never felt like crazy deprived. Like during peak week, I never felt like we were doing anything crazy. And I think we timed show day right. I think we didn't because in the past we had tested like doing a burger or something a bit greasy and big the night before.
yeah.
Didn't do that this time. I think I was texting you the night before, like at 4 or 5 PM, like, dude, I feel great. I feel like I'm in a great spot. Like, I feel like it might be a little overkill. Like, I might spill over a bit if I try to force
Well,
carbs a bit too
I
much.
think we had a burger. Was it after you won your pro card or after you won the pro show? And we didn't love the look the next day.
It was it was before the amateur show when I won my pro card because
Okay,
everyone was saying when I came out for the pro show how much better I looked
gotcha.
the day after. And that night before, all I did was chicken and couscous. Like I was like,
Just because, yeah. So you tightened, you pulled it back down.
yeah. And that's what I did. I didn't do anything crazy besides just like some sirloin and some white rice the night before.
Yeah,
Um, and I just think like I was as tight, the best I could have looked on the day. I think I looked that way. I think it was time per. It couldn't have been better.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the conditioning on those other guys is something to chase, but
Hmm.
the difference was the middleweight is as lean as he was actually taller than you.
Hmm.
So think about that. Brian was 20 pounds heavier and shorter and still had striated glutes. I mean, that
Yeah.
guy's glutes were like see-through striated, but that's one thing I've always remembered about WNBF Worlds. It's a bodybuilding competition. It's not a
Yeah.
conditioning competition. So they are trying to make sure the best bodybuilder wins.
I think I was probably 198 or 199 on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just insane, dude.
Because we couldn't get.
That's what I weigh on stage. And this is why I don't do natural bodybuilding pro shows anymore.
What was that in Doug's heyday? What was he? He was probably what, 205,
I
206?
mean, if I'm remembering correctly, because Cliff does a much different approach to peaking. He does like 3 days of like, I want to say like
Crazy high
no
carbs or something,
carbs.
right?
They do training where they do like, full glycogen depletion workouts, 20, 30 reps. So I think he
Okay.
got down to like 192. And then on stage, he's like 202, 201.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because then they do like a 24-hour, 1,000 carb fill out. And when I
that's what I
say
remember.
24
Yeah,
hour, the reason I've never really liked that protocol because I've tried it is because you actually don't get to sleep because you got to eat every 2 hours to get all that food in. And my athletes that did it, they didn't like waking up to eat every 2 hours. So
yeah,
I found that you can get in 1,000, 1,200 carbs over 3 days a little better. The risk you run with Doug, you don't run the risk because he's obviously the most muscular human, but like that complete depletion and trying to fill out in 24 hours, you can miss that. The way we did it, you really can't miss because it's just a
right.
very predictable, gradual
Yeah,
increase going into the show.
it's not that Hail Mary approach. It's like
No,
you're gaining
no.
5 yards here, 5 yards there.
Yeah. Well, my friend, I think it's been about a
Good
2 hour
times, man.
podcast and
Yeah,
I could
man.
talk to you all day because I feel like we haven't get, obviously we went right into like the holidays and all that stuff, so we haven't even had a chance to catch up. But I'm hoping you're coming to
Dude, I
Ohio,
know.
right, for the Arnold?
Absolutely, bro.
Yeah, so the core booth is going to be lit this year.
It will. We've got to have a fun night, man. Let's go out to eat. Shot of tequila or two.
Yeah, I'm going to need to get a drink. I'm gonna need to get a drink with my champions. I'm gonna have
You've
like
got to.
Daraja there, Ariana there, you'll be there.
Let's
Dude, it's
go.
yeah, yeah, that's
We
it's
should do
gonna
a
be a
video.
fun.
We should do a video training or something.
Oh
You
yeah.
just like coach Paul with all his champs.
Oh man, it's too much, man. What the booth, that core booth? Like they had another kid won his pro card at the Ben Weeder. He won like the classic IFBB pro card there. They had that guy
Mm-hmm.
Jay won you like they've got just the
Mr.
roster.
America.
Yeah. Core
Dude, I
just has a
know.
yeah, sick roster. Well, listen, man. Anything you got coming up you want to talk about? Any media stuff you're doing?
No, nothing specifically, man. I would just say hit me up on the socials. Brian Decosta on every platform. I'm going to be making a comeback to YouTube at some point this year, but mainly I'm hitting it hard building season this year on Instagram. I'm going to be posting daily workouts, revamping our mobile platform to have better interactive like workouts, daily workouts, all that stuff. So
I mean,
hit
you
me up
got to be on
there.
YouTube. I actually talked to George about flying out to Denver to do some content with you just because, it would be fun. So we may
Heck
we
yeah.
may end up doing that this year.
Hey man, Aaron and I have a house. We've got a whole freaking basement, whole studio set up, bathroom, living room, all that shit. You guys have a place to stay whenever, bro.
Might have to wait till it's a little warmer. These Florida boys, we don't do good in
Yeah.
those Denver winters.
Yeah.
Well, give Erin my best. I can't wait to see her at the Arnold and chat her up because we have not really had a chance to talk much just in passing. So,
Absolutely, man.
well,
Will do.
congrats, Mr. World Champion.
Dude, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough, man. I know. We still need to catch up. I'm looking forward to the
Yeah,
Arnold, man.
yeah. The Arnold's going to be good. This is so they actually moved the competition this year. So I have only girls competing Friday and Saturday. Last year I had a girl competing Tuesday. Yeah, so they moved everything. It's more compact. So I was ready to get the hell out of Columbus by the weekend. This year I get there
Yeah,
on Thursday. I'm probably going to stay till Monday and I'm going to enjoy the weekend.
good.
Um, yeah. And I've actually got a girl doing the Arnold Pro for the second time ever, and I've got a couple girls doing the show on Friday. So pretty light weekend for me. So I'm gonna be having some fun.
Good.
Sure,
Hell
sure.
yeah, man.
We'll be at the booth. All right, guys.
All right, man.
Talk to you
Thank you,
soon,
everyone.
Brian.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening to the Propozite Code.